Hey, I am down on the floor. Oh God, we'll see how long I last here. To continue my bookshelf tour. Let's start off with. Uh, it's funny how books accrue history, even they have nothing to do with. This is How to Read Literature Like a Professor by Thomas C. Forster, which was going to be part of a kind of a read along, kind of a study thing with a channel called Strip Cover Lit. Before that I got the book, but before that could happen, um, harassing behavior by one of the hosts of Strip Cover Lit, Adrian Fort, harassing behavior towards young female viewers, not came forward, and I made a video on that, and I severed my ties with them and have thus left this book that has nothing to do with that on the shelf ever since. And it's one of those things of I hopefully at some point I'll pick up this book and just sort of see how it is as a book on its own. But it's funny how books accrue memories and connotations that have nothing to do with them. And Thomas C. Forster, this got nothing to do with you or your book. But yeah, it's funny how that happens. So it's still on my shelf, but I have not gotten to it as of yet. Here, we'll do these because they're here. They're some graphic novels. Oh God. Here is a silly, probably funny in the context of the thing, a erotic, silly erotic kind of light graphic novel. I don't know, even graphic novel. It's a collection, probably European. I bet these are translated from like the French or from something. Does it even say? I don't even say in them. I'm pretty sure. Oh, actually, they are in French. It is in French, so at least it's not even translated. But yeah, it's sexy, silly situations. I have a fondness for that sort of stuff, and I won't be holding that page up of sexiness in comics, but that will come up again. Actually, here's another even better. Well, I don't know better, but that gives you an idea of the cheesecake factor of the Medal of Monera. Apparently, a heavy metal one where young woman showing off a buttocks. It's funny. I just talked about Adrian Fort and him being harassing towards women. Uh, you know, but I'm also an enjoyer of erotic fiction and an obviously erotic representations and thing. Erotica is an enjoyable thing to me. Sometimes a rather shamefaced enjoyment thing, but it's a part of who I am. I guess my sexuality, but of course my sexuality is mine, and it doesn't involve me trying to impose that on other people. So I guess that's where it's good to have the contrast. Good to have the contrast because it's something it's not that I struggle with. I struggle with it in a kind of an ethical way of like, oh, I say I'm someone who wants to respect women. Does my erotic taste respect women? And should my erotic taste be about respect? I don't know. It's one of those things that as a lunk-headed dude, I will probably always struggle with. I have a feeling. Here is not a erotic novel. It is Charles Burns' Sugar Skull, which I think might be a part of his, yes, the long, strange trip that began with X'd Out and continued with the Hive reaches its mind-bending, heart-breaking end, but not before Doug is forced to deal with a lie he's been telling himself since the beginning. In this concluding volume, nightmarish dreams evolve into even more dreadful reality. It is Charles Burns, who is got such a great, he has got such a great style, very uh, hallucinatory, very you get the sense of you're looking inside of somebody's psyche in his works in a way that I really do think that comics can do. They can express something in their non-realistic way. I really do like non-realistic stuff. Kind of David Lynchian in a way, but and probably also coming from that kind of an honest place of things that are just, that are inside the creator's mind, and that expresses in a kind of a fairly matter of fact way. Yeah, I enjoy my Charles Burns. We have the Black and Decker Complete Guide to Home Carpentry, something that, you got to have those actual useful books, so-called useful books in your collection. I've used that to make benches and hopefully not chop off too many thumbs. Still have my two thumbs. The two vestige thumbs got chopped off, but that was a handy little thing. Oh, here's one of these authors that I always have her books and I just don't read them. And I think it's one of these authors that got talked up a lot, but I could just never find my way into. And this is Milton's Elements by Cordelia Struve, which I think it's Canadian author who's gotten tons of praise, but for whatever reason never really caught on in general. And you don't know if that's sexism. You don't know if it's just some authors just don't have that thing about them that that their work catches the reader. And to be honest, I haven't read it, so I wouldn't know. But that's my impression of her. Oh, okay. And now I have my photocopy collection of various things. I've got I don't know. This is way back in university. I've got the Life of Sappho, and a bunch of Sappho's poems. Oh wow. Well, I mean, I guess they're fragments. That would be an interesting thing to look at. And then the one that I actually didn't know I had, which is White Man's Province, British Columbia Politicians and Chinese and Japanese Immigrants, 1858 to 1914, Patricia E. Roy, which I think I found in the library at UVic, and decided to photocopy. I think because it was part of like provincial history, and that I didn't think I would ever find a copy of it. That there wasn't a thing called Amazon at that point where I could probably find this book. Which the parts that I have read of it, it's very much they have like horrific quotations from like the Vancouver Sun and things of the time, just showing exactly how deeply racist of a province that BC, which I live in, perhaps is to Chinese, Japanese immigrants. Yeah, it still is to a lot of degree. We still have like the COVID-19 stuff. There's definitely upticks in racism against Asian people in general in the province. So it's fortunately still a very relevant thing. Here, I will do two more. I'll do Louis Riel, a comic strip biography by Chester Brown, which is all about Louis Riel, the famous religious political Métis leader who led a rebellion in Western Canada, kind of the prairies, and is a kind of it's a really good, vivid biography of him. Actually, it's one of these books that makes you want to read even more about him. But that Chester Brown is able to kind of get this idea of him as, as a prophet. I mean, here he is up on a mountaintop, and it's like slightly that he was both right and mad at the same time. Kind of comes across, I think, in this book. One of the ones I should probably reread a little bit of that. That's actually Canadian history, well done, well told. And I will finish off with a book that I've held up my other channel, The Assassin's Cloak, an anthology of the world's greatest diarists, which is, what it says on the tin is a collection going through, I think, an entire year, but with like selections of great diarists' entries, with Pepys, Atwood, um, everybody in here, everybody you know, Christopher Isherwood actually, who here I'll put him up, just like just an amazing collection is all the good parts, all the little slices, just a stupendous kind of compendium of people living their life in that present moment and writing down what they were thinking at that moment, that day, which is just yeah, I this is a tremendous book. Books that I want to reread again. I mean, I guess I want to, there's so many I do want to read, but that again, the things. And I think I came from The Assassin's Cloak to Christopher Isherwood's diaries. This is volume one, which is 1939 to 1960. It's probably the one that I enjoy the most of Christopher Isherwood's diaries. I think I've got his other ones, and they just didn't seem to snap as much. This is got an amazing, edited and introduced by Catherine Bucknell, who does just as a stunning job of the supporting material around it, of telling you who everyone is. Just great notes, because in a lot of diaries, if you just have the diary, people are writing it, they know who Steve is, but you have no idea who Steve is, and this will give you all the information about who Steve is, and keep you you are living along somebody's life. And he's also just a great, Isherwood is one of these, he's a novelist, English novelist who moved to the United States, and this kind of travels and is in that period of his life, and just does a great job of allowing you to travel along with this great writer in his life. Yeah, highly recommended of diaries. There's a lot of diaries just don't do it for me because they don't have the supporting material, or the writer just isn't that great of a writer. This has got everything in it. This is everything in it. So yeah, I will stop there. That's my entry for today on the floor. Oh God. We'll get through the rest on the floor, and then I'll get to stand up again. Maybe I'll try and find some way to support myself better so I'm not aching by the end of all these. All right. See you later.